Hello class. My name is Bumblebee, and today we are learning about caterpillars. Caterpillars are my best friends, because they love being around flowers, just as much as I do. Turn to your neighbor and pretend you are a caterpillar. Today you will learn what a caterpillar is, and what it does. We are going to learn some new vocabulary words that will help us understand more about caterpillars. Keep these words in your mind as we go through the lesson. Ready? Let's go. A caterpillar is a small creature that is like a worm with many legs, and that changes into a butterfly. Today, we are learning all about caterpillars. So, keep this vocabulary word in mind. An insect is a small animal that has 6 legs, and a body formed of 3 parts, that may have wings. Let's find out if a caterpillar is an insect. Herbivore is an animal that only eats plants. A butterfly is a kind of insect that has a long thin body and brightly colored wings and that flies mostly during the day. Caterpillars become butterflies, so, keep this vocabulary word in mind. A cocoon is a covering usually made of silk which caterpillars make around themselves to protect them while they grow. Let's remember this word as we go through the lesson. Here is your big thinking question for today's lesson. What is a caterpillar, and what does it do? Before we begin our lesson today, we are going to have some fun singing along to this song about caterpillars. Ready? Let's sing along. Let's begin our lesson by sharing this fun face about caterpillars. Caterpillars are a kind of animal called an insect. Turn and tell your neighbor what kind of animal caterpillars are. We just learned that a caterpillar is an insect. Now, it's time to choose which of these 3 items is an insect. I will answer this example for you. Turn and tell a neighbor which one you think is an insect. Since a wrench is not an animal, and an apple is not an animal, and since we learned a caterpillar is an insect, the correct answer is caterpillar. Great job! Let's take a look at our chart. In this chart, we will list what we know, what we want to know, and what we have learned. I am going to show you an example of how to use this organizer. We already know that a caterpillar is an insect. Let's put this answer in the "What I Know" column on our chart. Great work! Now, let's continue. Here's another fun fact about caterpillars. Caterpillars are herbivores. Remember that herbivores are animals that only eat plants. So, caterpillars only eat plants. Can you imagine only eating plants? Think of what else you'd like to learn about caterpillars. We just learned that caterpillars are herbivores, and they eat plants. Now, it's time to choose which of these 3 animals are herbivores. Work with your partner to pick the correct animal. You can do it. Since a lion and a wolf eat smaller animals, they eat meat. Because animals are made of meat. And we learned a caterpillar only eats plants. Since a caterpillar only eats plants, that means it is an herbivore. The correct answer is caterpillar. Great work! Now that we have already started learning about caterpillars, it's time to think about what else we want to learn about caterpillars. Work with your neighbor to think of one more thing you'd like to know about caterpillars. Once you have one thing, write it down under the "What I Want to Know" column. Great work so far. Here's another fun fact about caterpillars. Caterpillars grow by changing through a life cycle. What does your lifestyle as a human look like? Wow, we have learned so much about caterpillars so far. We just learned that caterpillars grow by going through a life cycle. Which of these items go through a life cycle? Does a bed go through a life cycle? Does a fan go through a life cycle? Does a caterpillar go through a life cycle? Work on your own to find the answer. Since a bed and a fan are not living things, they cannot grow. But, we learned a caterpillar is a living thing that grows in a life cycle, so, the correct answer is caterpillar. Nice work. Alright, now, it's time to think about what we have learned about caterpillars. Work on your own to think of, at least, one thing you have learned about caterpillars. Once you have one thing, write it down under the "What I Learned" column. You all have done a fantastic job. Time to answer our big thinking question for today's lesson. What is a caterpillar, and what does it do? Okay, it's your turn to show what you know. Choose and create a Voki character. Then, have your Voki answer the big thinking question. You can also click on the Voki app link to use your phone or tablet to create a Voki that answers the big thinking question. Have fun!